Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you are all fine and must be enjoying your life with your family. Students, when I started this subject of operations management, I told you that this subject is a blend of the different very important techniques like qualitative techniques, quantitative techniques, then qualitative techniques, as well as diagrammatic techniques, and also tabular techniques. And now when we are in our 13th lecture, you must understand that what I was talking about, because we have discussed about the graphical method of linear programming, that how we formulate our problems and how we use the different mathematical techniques, and finally how we draw the different graphs which represents the different lines, and finally the technique helps us to find out the optimal solution. And we have also discussed some examples related to simplex method. Again, we can use the different tabular technique, and we can use the different sort of calculations in order to find the predetermined objectives of the organization. In that sense, this subject is different from the other subjects of management, and its importance, you can be now well aware of the importance of this subject, that all of the different techniques we discuss in this particular subject of operations management actually helps the managers to find the optimal solutions. Usually we all the time say about the optimum utilization of resources, that is how to maximize the profit, how to minimize the cost, and how we can improve the productivity of our operations. And now you are well aware of that how we can use the different facts and calculations in order to achieve these predetermined objectives of the organization. So this is the importance of the operations management techniques. Let's have a recap about our last lecture. In our last lecture, we again solved a problem by using the simplex method, and we discussed about the different steps of simplex method. And again, as a first step, we discussed that first of all we will have to convert a particular managerial problem in the form of equations and inequalities. That is, first of all, we will have to formulate our objective function, and we must also know that whether we are interested in maximization of our objective function or we are interested in the minimization of our cost function. So after formulating the objective function, as a next step, we'll have to formulate and we'll have to convert the situation or limitations in the form of inequalities, which actually represents the constraints for our objective function. And after we convert all of the situations into the different equalities and inequalities, as a next step, we'll have to convert these inequalities into the equalities. And I told you about the different variables like slack variables or the surplus variables, and how we can introduce these slack variables and surplus variables in order to convert the inequalities into the equalities. And we discussed that whenever we have the inequality in the form of that less than and equal to form, then we will always add the slack variables to our inequalities. And again, if we have the inequality in the form of greater than or equal to form, then we will subtract these surplus variables from our inequalities. So this is the way to convert the inequalities into the equalities. After this conversion, we find out the initial solution by putting some of the variables equal to 0, and again we discussed a criteria that how much variables should be put equal to 0. And we can have the idea by that formula, that is number of variables minus the number of equations. The quantity or the amount we will get after this formula, we will have the idea that how much variables we should put equal to 0. So in this way we can get an initial solution. Then in the next step, what we do, that we put all of these equations in the form of a table, which is usually referred as initial tableau. And there are basic variables in this initial tableau, and there are also some non-basic variables. And after putting all of the coefficients from our objective function as well as all the equations into this form or in this table, then as a next step we'll have to find out that whether this table gives us the optimal solution or not. And we have also discussed the criteria for the optimal solution, that is, if you are interested in maximization problems, and actually up till now we have discussed only the maximization problems. So if we are interested in the case of maximization, then all the coefficients of the objective function should be positive. So that is the criteria for the optimality. If this table or the initial tableau do not give us the optimal solution, then we'll have to identify some important concepts in this table, and that is first of all we will have to identify that what is the minimum value in the coefficient of objective function, and the corresponding column with respect to that minimum value will be referred as our pivot column. After identifying our pivot column, we'll have to calculate the ratio by dividing the right hand side values columns and with the corresponding pivot column values. In this way we can have the different ratios, and then we will find out the minimum ratio, and that minimum ratio will help us to identify the pivot row. After we identify the pivot row and the pivot column, as a next step we'll have to find out the pivot number, and the pivot number is actually the value at the intersection of pivot row and pivot column. Another important thing we'll have to identify in this initial tableau, that is about the entering variable and the leaving variable. The non-basic variable which refers to the corresponding pivot column is our entering variable. That is the variable which is replaced by the some of the basic variable in the next step, and the basic variable which has the minimum ratio will be referred to as leaving variable, and leaving variable means that this particular variable will be replaced by our entering variable in the next tabulation. So this is the first step, that is we'll have to formulate and identify the different concepts in this initial tableau. Then again we'll have to use the two different formulas in order to regenerate this table. One formula is to formulate the new pivot row, and you already know that we use the formula that new pivot row is equal to 1 over pivot number multiplied by old pivot row. So again we formulate that new pivot row, and that pivot row is actually formulated in order to replace the old pivot row in the next table. Then we should also compute the values of all the other rows other than the pivot row, and for these rows we will use the formula that is new row is equal to old row minus pivot column coefficient multiplied by new pivot row. So one by one we will formulate the new rows, and we will generate the next table, and we will replace all of these rows after the computation by using these two formulas. Then again class will have to repeat the same step, that is we'll have to check the optimality, whether this table gives us the optimal solution or not. For that particular purpose, again we will check out the coefficients of our objective function, and again if you are interested in maximization problem, then all the coefficients of objective function should be positive. So if this table gives you the optimum solution, well and good, and you can find out the different values of x1 and x2, and you can always calculate the objective function. That will actually be the maximum objective function. And if this table do not give us the optimal solution, we will have to again repeat the similar steps. That is, we'll have to identify the pivot row, we'll have to identify the pivot column, we'll have to identify the pivot number, then the leaving variable and the entering variable in order to repeat these steps. So that's why we will continue these steps until we attain some objective and optimal solution. So class, that's why we usually refer this technique as a blend of some iterations, that is step-by-step approach of solving the problems. So this is what we discussed in the last lecture, and today we will discuss a minimization problem, that how this simplex method helps us to solve the minimization problem, that is how we can minimize our function by using this particular method. Okay class, there are two sub methods of simplex method, that is penalty method and big M method, and we will discuss both of these methods, but in today's lecture we will use the big M method in order to solve the simplex problem. Now students, we have the function f is equal to 4x1 plus x2. This is our objective function, and we are interested in the minimization of this function. Suppose that this is the cost function, and of course the operations manager is always interested to minimize the cost. This objective function is subject to the different constraints. These constraints are 3x1 plus x2 is equal to 3. So the first constraint is in the equality form. Now students, it is very important to note the form of these inequalities, whether these are in the form of that less than or equal to form, or these are in greater than equal to form, or it is already in the equation form. So it is very important to note down these form of inequalities. So our first constraint is already in the form of equality. Our second constraint is in the form of greater than equal to, that is 4x1 plus 3x2 is greater than equal to 6. Then our third constraint is x1 plus 2x2 is less than equal to 4. Again, this third constraint is in the form of that less than equal to. x1, x2 are the non-negative constraints, that is we cannot take x1 and x2 as any negative value. These are always be positive. Now again class, we have already discussed that we'll have to convert the inequalities into the equalities by adding or subtracting the slack variables or the surplus variables. So let's suppose that s1 and s2 be the surplus and slack variables for second and third constraint respectively. The first equation will remain same because it is already in the equality form. Why we use that slack variables or the surplus variables? The basic purpose is to convert the different inequalities into equalities. So that's why the first equation will remain same. The second equation, in the second equation, that was actually the greater than and equal to form. So in this particular case, we will subtract this surplus variable, that is s1, and our equation will become 4x1 plus 3x2 minus s1 is equal to 6. And this s1 here is the surplus variable, and you already know that the surplus variables are always subtracted. So in this way we convert the inequalities into the equalities. Our third inequality, if we convert into the equality, then we'll have to add the slack variables here, and our equation will become as x1 plus 2x2 plus s2 is equal to 4. So what we did, we convert all of the inequalities into the equalities by using the concept of that slack variable and surplus variable. Now we have four variables, that is x1, x2, s1, s2, and all these variables are positive. Now class, as a next step we will have to find some initial solution, and you already know that we can use that concept, that we can find out the number of variables minus the number of equations. In this particular case we have 4 variables and there are 2 equations, so 4 minus 2 is equal to 2. So this 2 indicates that we will have to put the values of two variables to 0 so that we can find the values of the other variables. So we can always use this rule to find out the initial solution. So if we put this x1 is equal to 0 and x2 is equal to 0 in all our equations, our objective function will become f is equal to 0. Our objective function basically was f is equal to 5x1 plus 4x2, but when we put x1 is equal to 0 and x2 is equal to 0, our objective function f will become f is equal to 0. Now class, if we put x1 is equal to 0 and x2 is equal to 0 in our first equation, the first equation will become 0 is equal to 3, which is a contradiction actually. The 0 cannot be equal to 3, 0 is always equal to 0. So that is against the basic mathematical rule. So actually this is a contradiction here, and we will discuss that how we will deal with this sort of contradiction. And when we put the values of x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0 in our second equation, we will get s1 is equal to minus 6, which is again a contradiction and violation. Why? Because x1, x2, s1, s2 all are non-negative constants, and these values cannot be negative. So this is again a violation and contradiction. And when we put x1 is equal to 0 and x2 is equal to 0 in our third equation, it will become s2 is equal to 4. This is okay, but we have the problem in these two equations, which is actually the contradiction. So 0 is equal to 3. This is against the basic rules of mathematics, as the 0 cannot be equal to 3. So s1 is equal to minus 6. This is against the non-negativity constant, that s must be non-zero. So class, we have the contradiction in two of the cases here. Now we will discuss that how we will deal with this contradiction. This situation cannot be called as initial feasible solution. So the first point is that we do not have a feasible solution because of this contradiction, and because of this violation of the basic mathematical rules, because it is not satisfying the conditions. So to make it feasible, we need to add the artificial variables in equations having the contradictions and the violations. So class, whenever we have this sort of a contradiction and violation, in order to solve this particular situation, what we'll have to do, we'll have to introduce artificial variables. And you must remember that initially when I told you about the slack variables and the surplus variables and the artificial variables, I told you that we will discuss the artificial variables when the situation becomes on. Now this is the situation, and this is the point where we should know about the artificial variables. Now let a1 and a2 be the artificial variables for the first and second equations respectively. Okay students, as you see that we have three equations, but in two of the equations we have contradiction and violation. So please remember that हम सिर्फ आर्टिफिशियल वेरिएबल्स उन इक्वेशंस के लिए यूज़ करेंगे जिसमें कंट्राडिक्शन है और वायोलेशन है, बाकी किसी भी इक्वेशन के लिए हम आर्टिफिशियल वेरिएबल्स यूज़ नहीं करेंगे. इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस वी हैव द कंट्राडिक्शन इन टू ऑफ द इक्वेशंस, सो वी विल इंट्रोड्यूस आर्टिफिशियल वेरिएबल्स a1 and a2 for the first and the second equations which were actually violated and having some sort of a contradiction. So again class, our minimization function is 4x1 plus x2, and now we are subject to the different constraints, and our first constraint is now in the form of this equation, that is 3x1 plus x2 plus a1 is equal to 3. Basically this equation was having the contradiction, so in order to deal with that contradiction, we introduced the artificial variable here represented as a1. So that equation is represented as equation 4. Again in the second equation we have some violation, and in order to deal with this violation, what we did, we introduced an other variable which is referred as artificial variable, that is a2 here in this particular equation, and now our second equation will become as 4x1 plus 3x2 minus s1 plus a2 is equal to 6. This is our fifth equation now. The third equation will remain as such because it was not having any contradiction and violation. So this equation is already in the same form, that is x1 plus 2x2 plus s2 is equal to 4, and now we have represented this particular equation as equation number 6. So again, x1, x2, s1, s2, a1, a2 all are non-negative constants. All of the values of these variables should be positive. So students, questions in which we introduce the artificial variables cannot solve straight away. We have to use following two methods to solve it. Now what we have done so far, we have introduced the artificial variables in order to find some initial solution, and we have re-evaluated and reformulated our equations by the introduction of those artificial variables. But at this point, because this is a different case, and now we have the artificial variables as well in our equations, so we cannot solve these equations in the same way as we solved the problem in the previous lectures. What we will have to do, use the two important methods. One method is known as penalty method or M method, and usually that is called as the big M method, and the other method is the two-phase method, in which we use the two different phases in order to solve our problems. In this particular lecture, we will solve this problem by the penalty method, that is big M method. Okay students, let M is a very large quantity, and we have introduced another variable that is represented by M, and we suppose that M is a very large number, that is M is very greater than 0, and we will have to use that big M actually in our objective function, and now our objective function will become f is equal to 4x1 plus x2 plus ma1 plus ma2, and this will be our equation number 7. Now students, what we actually do, we use the different artificial variables, and in the particular objective function we have multiplied that very large quantity with that artificial variables, that is a1 and a2, and actually we have reformulated our objective function. This is the procedure what is being defined by the different theories, and students, you should have to follow this particular rule. So what you should keep in mind, that whenever we introduce that big M in this penalty method, then we'll have to reformulate our objective function by multiplying the big M value with all of the artificial variables and adding these particular values in our objective function. So class, our new objective function again is f is equal to 4x1 plus x2 plus ma1 plus ma2. Now what we will do, we'll have to calculate the values of these artificial variables, that is a1 and a2. Use the equation number 4 to find the value of a1. Now class, we have this equation number 4, that is 3x1 plus x2 plus a1 is equal to 3. What we will do, we will calculate the value of a1 from this equation, and the value of a1 will become, if we take these values of x1 and x2 to the right hand side of the equation, the value of a1 will become 3 minus 3x1 minus x2. That is a1 is equal to 3 minus 3x1 minus x2. Similarly, we will calculate the value of other artificial variable, that is a2, from the other equation, that is actually the equation number 5, and this is the equation number 5, that is 4x1 plus 3x2 minus s1 plus a2 is equal to 6. Again, the value of a2 will become 6 minus 4x1 minus 3x2 plus s1. So in this way we will calculate the value of a2. Now what we will do, we will put both of these values of a1 and a2 in our objective function, that is represented by equation 7 actually. So putting both of these values of a1 and a2, we will get the our objective function as 4x1 plus x2 plus m multiplied by this value of a1. So we put this value of a1 here, that is 3 minus 3x1 minus x2 plus m again within bracket the value of a2. We will put the value of a2 here. So in this way we will have to reformulate our objective function. And okay class, now open all of these brackets, that is 4x1 plus x2, this will become 3m minus 3mx1 minus mx2. So what you'll have to do, you'll have to open up all of these values, and now you can take the x1 values, that is the values in which x1 is involved, at one place, and you can always take that x1 common. Actually what we want to do, we want to represent that objective function in homogeneous form, so that we can have the values of x1 first, then the x2, and then the constants. So if we take common x1 from the two different values, it will become 4 minus 7m into x1 plus within bracket 1 minus 4m into x2 plus ms1 plus 9m. So we have rearranged all of these values to have our objective function in this particular format. And now this is our new formulated objective function. Now class, again what we have done so far, we have formulated and actually reformulated our objective function. That is, now our objective function is in this particular form, that is f is equal to minus 7m plus 4 into x1 plus minus 4m plus 1 into x2 plus ms1 plus 9m. And again this objective function is subject to the different constants which we have already computed and represented as equation number 4, 5 and 6. Now this is now our reformulated problem. Now again class, we will use the similar step of finding the initial solution. That is, we will use that rule, that is the number of variables minus the number of equations. In this particular case there are 6 variables, that is x1, x2, s1, s2, a1 and a2, and there are 3 equations. So 6 minus 3 is equal to 3. We'll have to put the values of 3 variables to 0. So let's suppose we put x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0 and s1 is equal to 0. So by putting all of these 3 values in these equations, that is equation number 4, 5, 6 as well as the objective function, we will get the value of objective function f is equal to 9m, because when we put x1 is equal to 0 here, x2 is equal to 0 here, s1 is equal to 0 here, all of these values will become 0 and the value of our objective function will become 9m. So f is equal to 9m. In the same way, the values of our other variables, that is that will become as a1 is equal to 3, a2 is equal to 6, s2 is equal to 4. So this is our initial solution. Now this method is almost same as we have already used in our previous examples. This solution is called the initial feasible solution because it satisfies the non-negativity constraint and also do not have any contradiction or violation. So students, initially we had some contradiction and violation. In order to deal with this sort of contradiction and violation, we introduced some artificial variables, and then we used the big M method and we introduced a big quantity M in order to reformulate our objective function. And then again we use a similar method by putting some of the values of our variables to 0, and in this way we have some initial solution. Okay, now class, now we are in a position to formulate the initial tableau, and you already know about the method of formulating that initial table. And what we will do, we will make this sort of table and we will write about the basic variables as well as the non-basic variables. Our basic variables in this particular case are a1, a2 and s2, and our non-basic variables are, that is x1, x2, s1, s2, a1 and a2. Now we will put the coefficients of all of our equations into this table. Our first equation is 3x1 plus x2 plus a1 is equal to 3. So we put the all coefficients here for the first equation. Similarly, our second equation is 4x1 plus 3x2 minus s1 plus a2 is equal to 6. The values of s2 and a1 in this particular equation is 0, so we put here 0. Similarly, our third equation is x1 plus 2x2 plus s2 is equal to 4. In this similar fashion, we should always put that objective function coefficients here as well. The coefficients of our objective functions here are 7m minus 4, that is the coefficient of x1, and 4m minus 1, that is the coefficient of x2, minus m is the coefficient of s1, is equal to the right hand side, that is 9m. So if you recall your objective function, this is actually your objective function, and you must remember that I told you that we will have to convert this objective function in homogeneous form. So what we will do, we will put all of these right hand side to the left hand side, and in order to have some constant value in the right hand side, so this will become negative when we will take it to the other side of the equation, and the value will become 7m minus 4 as the coefficient of x1. In this, therefore, we have put 7m minus 4 here, 4m minus 1 minus m, the relevant coefficients of x1, x2, s1, and on the right hand side is the 9m. So this is the value of the value on the right hand side of our objective function. So class, now we have filled this particular table, and now we'll have to find out that whether this table gives us the optimum solution or not. And what is the criteria for the optimum solution? That is, this W is not satisfied because our criteria for minimization is non-positivity of all the coefficients of the objective function. So we will iterate it further. So class, we solved the different maximization problems in our previous 2 lectures, and in that particular case of maximization, our criteria of optimality was that all the coefficients of the objective functions should be positive. That was the criteria of optimality. But now in this particular case, we are interested in the minimization problem, so our criteria of optimality will again change for the minimization problems, and now we will have to check out that whether all the coefficients of the objective functions are positive or not. So now in this particular situation of minimization, the criteria of optimality is, that is, the coefficients of the objective functions must be negative. If all the coefficients of the objective functions are negative, then it means this table will give you the optimum solution. But that is not the case here, because you can see that if we see the coefficient values of our objective function, the first value with respect to the x1 coefficient is 7m minus 4. Class, we have discussed that m is a very, very large quantity, and again, if we multiply that very large quantity by 7 and we just subtract 4, it will again be a very large quantity. So still it is a positive quantity. Similarly, if we take the example of that 4m minus 1, again m is a very large quantity, and if we multiply that large quantity by 4, it will become even more larger quantity, and we will if we subtract just 1 from that very, very large quantity, again it will be a very, very large positive quantity. So what I actually want to let you understand, that all of these values, that is 7 and m minus 4, 4m minus 1, these are still positive values. The next value in this particular objective function is minus m, so this is the negative, and because of these 2 positive values, this table will not give us the optimum solution, because as I just told you that all of the coefficients of objective functions must be in negative form. So what we will do, we'll have to again identify the pivot column, pivot row, and then the pivot number. So we can reformulate this particular table. Now class, again, in case of maximization, what was the method of identifying our pivot column? That we usually look for the minimum value out of the coefficients of objective function. But in this case of minimization, we will identify the largest positive value out of the coefficients of objective function. In this particular case, we have two positive values, that is 7m minus 4 and 4m minus 1. As I just have discussed, that if we multiply this m by 7, it will be a very, very large quantity. Even 7m minus 4 will be the larger quantity with respect to 4m minus 1. So actually our highest positive value in this particular case is 7m minus 4. So this particular column will identify us as the pivot column. So this is our pivot column, and the corresponding non-basic variable, that is x1. So what is this x1? This will be our entering variable. You must remember about the entering variable, that is the variable which corresponds to the largest coefficient of objective function in case of minimization problems. So in this particular case, x1 will be our entering variable. After identifying this pivot column, we will have to identify pivot row, that what is our pivot row. So what we will do, we will compute the ratio by dividing this right hand side with the corresponding values of the pivot column. That is, in the first case, we will divide this 3 by this value of 3 by 3, that will be 1. Then again we will divide this 6 by 4, 6 by 4, it will become 1.5, and then 4 divided by 1, it will become 4. Now after calculating all of these three ratios, what we will do, we will have to identify the minimum value. What is the minimum value in this particular ratio? And again you must remember that if there is a negative value or there is some infinity value in this particular ratio, we always ignore those values. So out of these valued values, we will find out that what is the minimum value. So this is the minimum value out of all of the ratio values, and so the corresponding row will be our pivot row. This is our pivot row. So we have identified our pivot column, we have identified our pivot row. Now we have to identify the pivot number. Now you can see that this is the cell where our pivot row and pivot column are intersecting with each other. This is actually the value of pivot number. So in this particular case, the value of the pivot number will be equal to 3. Another important thing in this tableau is to identify our leaving variable. Now class, as you have identified that this particular row is your pivot row, and the corresponding basic variable will be our leaving variable. So in this particular case, A1 will be our leaving variable. And what is meant by entering variable and the leaving variable? It is meant that when we will reformulate our table, then we will replace this value of A1, that is the leaving variable, by this variable x1, that is the entering variable. So again, in this particular case, we have identified our pivot column, pivot row, then pivot number, what is the leaving variable, and what is the entering variable. Now what we will have to do, again we will have to see the optimality condition, that is this tableau is not satisfied because our criteria for the minimization is non-positivity of all the coefficients of the objective function. So we will iterate it further, as I have already told you that the condition of optimality is not satisfied, because for the condition of optimality, all the coefficients of objective functions should be negative. So we'll have to formulate and reformulate another table. Again class, as I have discussed, that we select the entering and leaving variable. The entering variable will be with the highest positive objective function coefficient, and leaving variable will be with minimum ratio. So we have already identified these entering variable and leaving variable. Now class, as a next step, what we'll have to do, we'll have to identify our new pivot row. You must remember that what is the formula of reformulating the new pivot row, that is 1 over pivot number into old pivot row. Now what is our old pivot row and pivot number? As we have just identified that this one is your pivot number, that is 3. So this is pivot number, and your pivot row is, that is your pivot row, that is 3 1 0 0 1 0 3. So we will rewrite this pivot row here, that is 3 1 0 0 1 0 3. So what we did, we rewrite our old pivot row here in order to compute our new pivot row. Now by multiplying this particular value of 1 by 3 by each value of that old pivot row, we will get the new pivot row as 3 by 3, that is equal to 1, 1 divided by 3, that is equal to 1 by 3, 0 divided by 3 is 0, 0 divided by 3 again is 0, 1 divided by 3 1 by 3, 0 divided by 3 again it will become 0, and 3 divided by 3, that is equal to 1. So this is our new pivot row, and when we will formulate our new table, what we will do, we will replace this new pivot row in the position of the old pivot row. Now as the next step, what we'll have to do, we'll have to find out the values of all the other rows other than that of the pivot row. So the formula for calculation of the other rows are, that is new row is equal to old row minus pivot column coefficient multiplied by new pivot row. Now in this particular case class, let's compute our new A2 row, and for this A2 row the formula is old A2 row minus corresponding pivot column coefficient multiplied by new pivot row. Now if we see the previous table, we can see our old A2 row is this one. This is our old A2 row, that is 4 3 minus 1 0 0 1 6. This is the old A2 row, and what is the corresponding pivot column coefficient? This is our pivot column, and the corresponding value of pivot column coefficient with respect to that A2 is 4 here. So we will put these values in our formulas in order to compute that A2 row. Now this is the old row minus 4, that is the pivot column coefficient, into the new pivot row, that is 1 1 by 3 0 0 1 by 3 0 1, which we have just computed. So our new A2 row will become as 0 again. How 0 comes? 4 minus 4 multiplied by 1, it will be 0. Then 3 minus 4 multiplied by 1 by 3, this will become 5 by 3. So class, it is always better to solve these values as a rough work to avoid any sort of miscalculations. Like how this value of 5 by 3 comes. Now the second value will become as, this will be equal to 3 minus 4, 3 minus 4 multiplied by 1 by 3, multiplied by 1 by 3. So this will become 3 minus 4 by 3, 3 minus 4 by 3, and if we take the LCM, this will be the LCM as 3, 1 3 by 3, 3 3 the 9, 9 minus 4, and this will become equal to 5 by 3. That's why we have written that 5 by 3 here. So in the similar fashion, you'll have to calculate each and every value, and the new A2 row in this way will become 0, 5 by 3, minus 1, 0, minus 4 by 3, 1 and 2. Similarly, we'll have to calculate the other values, that is new S2 row. Again, the formula for the new S2 row will be equal to old S2 row minus the corresponding pivot column coefficient multiplied by new pivot row, and again one by one we'll have to compute these values in order to reformulate our new S2 row. Then class, we'll have to also compute the new F row, and this will be equal to our old F2 row. Now again class, we'll have also to compute our new F row, and the formula for computing this new F row will be again the same, that is old F row minus corresponding value of pivot column coefficient multiplied by new pivot row. Now let's take the example of first value, 7m minus 4. So we will have to compute this value is 7m minus 4. Now minus 7m minus 4 again, so this is minus 7m minus 4 multiplied by 1. Now if we solve this equation, this will become 7m minus 4 minus 7m minus minus plus, it will become 4. So this is plus 4, this is minus 4, this is 7m, and this is 7m, so it will become 0. So that's why we have put that 7m here. So it is always good to compute all of these values in order to avoid any sort of miscalculation. Let me calculate another value, that is the second value of this F row. This will become as 4m minus 1 minus 7m minus 4 multiplied by 1 by 3. Now we'll have to solve again this particular equation. This will become as 4m minus 1 minus 7m. If we open this bracket and multiply by 1 by 3 as well, so it will become minus 7m by 3. Minus minus will become positive, so it will become plus 4 by 3. So if we take this 3 as LCM, this will become as 3 will be multiplied by that 4m minus 1, so it will become 12m minus 3 minus 7m plus 4. So this particular value will become 12m minus 7m, that is 5m, and minus 3 plus 4, that will become plus 1 divided by 3. So this is our value which will be put at this particular position here, that is 5m plus 1 by 3. So class, you'll have to compute in the same way all of the values in order to avoid any sort of miscalculation. Now what we will have to do, we will have to reformulate the next table, and first of all we will have to replace our new pivot row in the place of that old pivot row. Now class, this was our previous table, and this is our old pivot row. So we will write down the new pivot row at this exact position. So in this particular table, this is actually our new pivot row. So this is our new pivot row. Again, we have already computed the values of new A2 row. We will replace that values of A2 row here, and similarly for S2 and new F row, we have already computed all these values. So we will put all of these values in this particular table again, and again we will have to check the condition of optimality first, that whether this table will give us the optimal solution or not. Now let's see the coefficients of objective function. Still there is a positive value as 5m plus 1 by 3. Again, m is a very large quantity. If we multiply that very large quantity by 3 and we add 1 and then we will divide it by 3, again we will have the very large quantity and it will be positive. So again, class, this will not give us the optimal solution, and we'll have to again reformulate the table. For this particular objective, again we'll have to identify the pivot row and the pivot column, and again the pivot number as well. As you can see that the highest positive value, the actually only positive value is 5n plus 1 by 3. So this particular column will be our pivot column, and then again we will calculate the ratio by dividing the right hand side value with respect to the corresponding pivot column values. Then we will have to identify the minimum ratio, and the corresponding row will be our pivot row, and again the point of intersection of the pivot row and the pivot column will be our pivot number. So we'll have to also identify the leaving variable as well as the entering variable in this particular case. In this particular case, our x2 variable will be the entering variable, and A2 variable will be the leaving variable. So this is our pivot column, and this is our pivot row. So class, again this table does not fulfill the condition of the optimality, because our criteria for the minimization is non-positivity of all the coefficients of the objective function. So we will iterate it further. We'll have to again follow the steps. That is, we'll have to again find out the new pivot row, and again we'll have to find out the rows other than that pivot row. In this particular case, you can see that 5 by 3 is our pivot number, that is the point of intersection of the pivot row and pivot column. So we will put this value in this formula, and this is our old pivot row in the previous table, and again in this particular fashion we will get the new pivot row. Again we'll have to compute new x1 row, and again new s2 row and new f row. So class, you must now be well aware of the different values, that how we can compute all of these rows. Okay class, in this way, by using the other formula other than that pivot rows, we'll have to compute all the other rows, that is new x1 row, new s2 row and new f row. And now you must be well aware that how we are computing all of these values for non-pivot rows actually. So in this fashion we can get the values of all of these rows, and this is our next table. Again, first of all we will put the values of that pivot row in this table, and then again we will put all the values of rows other than pivot row on this table. And again class, will have to check the criteria of optimality, that all the coefficients of objective function should be negative. Again you can see that there is a positive value still in the coefficient of objective function. So this shows us that it will not still give you the optimal solution. And again we'll have to find out the new pivot row, and again we'll have to find out the new values. The same procedure is being repeated in that particular case. Now this is our next table, and if we see the coefficients of our objective function, now you can see that all the values of our objective function are negative. So it shows that this particular table gives you the optimal solution. And what is our optimal solution? That is being represented by the basic variable values at this right hand side column. So in this fashion we can have the optimal solution, and if we put x1 is equal to 2 by 5 and x2 is equal to 9 by 5, that is actually being taken from this particular table, and if we put these values in our objective function, we can get our objective function as 17 by 5. So this is the maximum value of our objective function, and again there is no other alternative available through which we can maximize our objective function. So class, today we discussed about the particular method of minimizing a function by using that simplex method technique. In the next class we will discuss the other method of simplex technique, that is two-phase method, and we will try to solve the same problem by this other method, that is the two-phase method. Okay class, thank you very much for your patience. Take care. Khuda Hafiz.